Aloha and bonjour. Welcome back to Wanderous. I am your host, Andrew Crusoe. This is a show designed to pop your bubble. I used to be able to better at that sound, something like that, and get you out of your comfort zone, out of where you've been, no matter what form that takes for you. I encourage you to do it. Today is sort of a part 2 from last week. Let's dive into it. August 22nd was a real big day. It was a real action-packed day. I'm surprised I did not put these 2 days in the same category in my brain, but I probably bifurcated, or I would say compartmentalized it a bit, because when I got back from Versailles, I had to change couch surfing hosts. My first host in Paris had another guest. I wanted to hang out kind of closer to the center of the city anyway, so I stayed, I think it was 2 nights toward the center. I was hosted by a very cool, very French man who was very happy to show me Moulin Rouge. So I get over there and I have all my stuff, and he's in this. Oh my God, this guy's apartment was really cool. There was just all of the walls were bookshelves, just lined with old books. There was a sense of knowledge, but also a sense of a slight dustiness, but also just a sense of hominess, a sense of comfort in his place. He did have I don't know if I should talk about this. He did have kind of a stressful shower situation because he didn't really have a door that closed. So every time you would take a shower, you had to physically dry off a lot of things. Let's just say you had to physically dry off a lot of components, which I wasn't quite used to, but it was a short-term thing, and I really appreciated him hosting me, and he was a very lovely host. He was very gracious and very available, and wanted to give me a walking tour of his neighborhood, which started with the Moulin Rouge, which I believe is also in Montmartre. Let's talk about the Moulin Rouge. So the Moulin Rouge is a famous cabaret. It's a place where people sing and dance and do performances, and you've probably seen famous paintings. There's a painting called At the Moulin Rouge from 1890, which you may have seen. It's a vibe. We didn't have time to go in. There is a musical. Maybe you've seen it. I've seen parts of it. Don't at me. Don't yell at me. I haven't seen all of it yet. We're pretty sure it's where the can dance was sort of popularized and sort of perfected, I suppose. I got a very corny photo of me. I'll include this for the photos bonus for this episode. I got a corny photo of me in front of the Moulin Rouge. I feel underdressed. I'm just wearing a gray t-shirt. But the highlight of this tour, there were 2 highlights, because there's always 2 highlights with me. My host was a, let's say, super fan. Yeah, super fan of the film Amélie. If you don't know what Amélie is, I will put it in the show notes. It is a very fun and colorful French film that is probably one of the most popular films from France in the United States. Anyway, it's got a whole movement. It's really fun. It's a really fun film, and he was very happy to show me a dozen different places where they filmed Amélie around Montmartre, which is the hill, and places around there. And I will tell you something. I was speaking about the cleanliness of the city in the last episode, and this was, believe it or not, the cleanest part of the city, probably because it's such a historical treasure. I mean, these are cobblestone, handmade, ancient streets, and people just, I don't know, there's such a sense of like stepping back into a different era. It did remind me, and I will talk about this in a later episode, it reminded me of a film that I enjoy called Midnight in Paris, probably Woody Allen's best film. A very controversial thing to say, but that's what I do on this show. Something about the lighting, something about the orangeness, something about the warmth. I took pictures. They do have like movie posters of Amélie saying like, this is this is relevant, and they'll have like there was even a framed on the outside of this grocery store. I forget the name of the grocery store. It's in that area. It's not too far. It's near the Marché de la Butte, so the market of the Butte, Butte. It's nice once you start to get your head around French. Some of the words are really close. It's not that bad. It's not like Japanese. Because the French language influenced the development of English quite a bit. If you dive in, if you really do a deep dive, you will see, like, there was a period where England was ruled by a French king and vice versa, and there was a lot of exchange. So that does a lot of things to a language, as you can imagine. And we walked around, and he was very excitedly showing me these places in Amelie that I could not remember. I will not lie, I will not exaggerate, because it had been like 10 years since I'd seen the film. But the thing that really, really stuck in my mind from that night is we walked around Sacré-Cœur, like actually up the hill itself. And I have a video of this that I'll put in the show notes that is really cool. It really gives you a feeling for it. Let me see if I've got... Oh, man. It's so funny. The photos really don't capture all of it. I mean, sometimes they do, but this time they actually have a depiction of the crucifixion with Jesus, Yeshua, and the two other guys to his side. They have a recreation of that in the courtyard. It's a bit hard that they light it. They keep it lit at night. And the most interesting bit, though, was there is on top of one of these nearby buildings. I think it's on the actual Sacré-Cœur. It's either the Sacré-Cœur or, well, if you go to Sacré-Cœur, you'll see it. I think it is. There is actually a metaphor. This is a statue on the top of the building. It's green, it's copper, so it's a different color. The rest of the building is, light gray, white, and it's quite well lit at night. And you can see an angel standing on what looks like an alligator from the untrained eye. And it is, I thought it was he explained to me, and I believe he says this in the video that I'll put in the show notes, so I do have a little TikTok and YouTube video of this. He explains that it is the defeat of Lucifer. This alligator lizard thing is symbolic of Lucifer. So I'd never seen that kind of depiction of evil as a literal reptile on top of a building, but there it was, and it was quite a sight. And that's definitely a photo of that's definitely going to go in the bonuses. If you don't already know, if this is your first episode, you might want to go back one episode because that's a good introduction to where we are now in the story. But every week, just about every Wednesday, I release at least like 8 to 80 photos, we'll say. High quality photos shot in RAW from my waterproof Olympus TG6, which has a really nice optical zoom and shoots in RAW, so I'm able to get a lot of detail out of it. One of the photos that I really like, and maybe it's just because it's such a moment that evening, and it was getting quite late at this point. We've been wandering around that part of Paris for a while. It was quite quiet, to be honest. It really wasn't. This was very much a walking around part of the city. It's very discouraged to, and maybe because it was, I believe it was the middle of the week. It's discouraged to drive on some of these cobblestone roads, and the metro support is great. Like people will disagree with me, but I don't think you actually need a car in Paris. It's sort of like New York or San Francisco in that way. And the ramification of this was there would be these moments where I would turn around, especially that night, and it would look like a postcard. It would be like, how is this street so spotless and mysterious? I could say, like, the lighting was so evocative of a different time, a different vibe. Paris is definitely a city that has nostalgia woven into its DNA, I would say. I mean, so much art history just happened in Paris. So much was going on, especially like obviously during the 20s when Picasso and all those people, TSL, what I'm talking about. Scott Fitzgerald and all those people were just doing incredible work. But that spanned. I mean, they had the La Belle Epoque. They had all these different epochs where there'd be different waves of art. There'd be different waves of then modernism comes in, and it was really the center of the art world in the West for a while. So it's natural for the city to be, and I'm no historian, as you can probably tell, but just walking around, you were swimming in nostalgia in a few places. There's definitely that feeling. The last thing that happened that night, and I'm going to try to remember why this was, but I'll recall what I can recall. Oh, there's the photo. This photo of the street. Oh, man. This was so cool. That's going to go in there. The last thing was we wandered around to a different cabaret, a smaller one that I didn't want to go into because I was very tired. And I actually don't think it was open at the moment. And it was called Au Lapin Agile, which I believe means the agile rabbit. Lapin, L-A-P-I-N, means rabbit. And there was a pun, and I don't remember the nature of the pun, but there was a pun. And my host taught me what is still my favorite phrase in the French language, which is jeu de mots, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, but because you have to live in France for a year probably before you can pronounce anything correctly. But jeu means game, and de mots means of words. I can spell these words. I can't pronounce them. I can spell it. Jeux, du, and then mo. Game of words. Can you guess what a game of words is? I think this is cool. A game of words is a pun. It just means like a play on words. But they don't say play on words. It's pretty close to play on words. But they say jeu de mots, a game of words. And there are many businesses in France, especially in Paris, that are puns. They're jeux de mots, like very, very intentionally. So I thought that was cool. I don't know how many of these semi-deserted street photos I want to include. There's such a vibe, such a nice vibe. I really can't get over. How lovely this feeling was just walking around Paris at night and feeling quite safe. You know, a lot of those like little places downtown, it's really not a big deal. It's really quite chill, and I highly recommend it. So I would say that is all I have for today. I love to hear what you think of this episode. If you have any questions, what do you think of the show notes? Because the show notes are going to have some video from this that has been posted a while ago, over a year ago. But I really gotten lucky. Whenever you can have a host who is excited to give you a bit of a walking tour, take them up on it. Really, just avail yourself. That is one of the best things about couch surfing is you get to experience the city through the eyes of a local, and they get to re-experience their city through the eyes of a newcomer. So it's really a win-win. It's quite special. My host and I vowed to come back to Au Lapin Agile, but alas, we never made it back. And that's the sad note that I'm going to end on for this episode. But next time, we're going to a free museum, which I really recommend. And if you want to know about that, we're going to see weird creatures, sculptures that are a riot. I've got video of that. Some incredible impressionistic, emotional things. We get to see, I think this is a Monet, and it's very emotionally intense in the best possible way. It's really, really profound. The things you can see, the things you will see when you go to Paris, and the stuff that you'll see that is completely free. It's wild what you can see that's completely free. And that is one of the purposes of this show, is to point out, and I used to do this with the travel blog, but that was a long time ago, to point out the free mind-blowing things. But to learn about that, we'll have to tune in, tap in, drop off, drop out, and explode next time on Wanderous. Please follow the show on Spotify if you haven't already. That's WANDEROUS. Don't make me repeat it. And also on Patreon, if you're on one, grab the other one because they're both free to follow. Follow for free. On Patreon, you can leave comments and I can answer your questions. Unless it's like 2030, and then I might not. I might be busy with other amazing projects. But if it's not 2030 yet, you know what to do. A biento. And aloha. You know, a normal person wouldn't comment on this, but I was going to say jump and I was going to say dive, and then it became jive, and then I was like, that's staying in. Maybe it'll catch on.